We've been playing a lot of Stellar Blade, and now having completed it, here are some awesome things that we wish we knew earlier to hopefully make your playthrough so much better. From things the game doesn't tell you to how to unlock hidden customization options for Eve, and even ways to get extra XP super early on, here's some beginner tips, so let's get into it. Let's start off with how to auto-loot stuff on the floor, which is just going to save you having to hold R2 down your whole playthrough. Of course, getting that sweet loot after defeating a boss or a mob is one of the best things in gaming, and Stellar Blade has a bunch of awesome things for you to get so you can upgrade your exosuits and even get new outfits for Eve. Well, something that will just make looting infinitely easier and so you don't even have to think about it is turning on the auto loot option in the menu settings. This allows you to easily loot any valuable items by just standing near them. So make sure to use this setting, as once I turned this on, I never looked back. And talking about loot, here's some of the more valuable chests and enemies that will drop some goodies for you, so you want to keep your eyes out for these particular things. First are these little robots that are often hidden in dark corners or just off the normal path to the main objective. Defeating these will give you a bunch of upgrade materials, including things like the Tumbler expansion modules, which are used to increase the maximum amount of rechargeable potions that you can carry, or drone modules to enhance your drone. In addition to this, there are some special chests that you really want to look out for, and they are these tall, more rectangular or square boxes, as these will give you new outfits and accessories for Eve. We know many of you will want to collect all of those accessory and outfit options, so make sure to look out for these, as this is where you will find them out in the world. But there's also a way to get a bunch of them quite early on, which we'll show you in this video. There's another type of box that you also want to keep a lookout for, and this is the more briefcase looking one, as this will give you Exospine modules. These are gear pieces with perks on them that enhance Eve's capabilities, and you'll 100% want to collect these, as some of them are really good. Next up, you'll want to know a core mechanic to Stellar Blade, which is of course not getting hit and making sure you use your defensive options, which includes parrying and dodging. The parry and dodge timing can be a little weird to begin with, but something that will make it way easier is by prioritizing unlocking the focus boost and reflex boost in the skill tree, as this will increase the window to actually get those perfect parries and dodges, making those boss fights even more awesome when you feel like an absolute god parrying them back to back to back. These are some of the first skill tree upgrades that I would recommend you actually save your SP and use them on, because they do make a difference. There's also a nice Reflex Spine exosuit that you can get around midway through the game that, once upgraded, will further increase this window and also make your shields regenerate faster. We highly recommend equipping this one, as it will make perfect dodging and perfect parrying feel so much better and easier and just help you out in combat. So when you get to the area called the closed off platform, which is in the subway area, you want to look out for this train, where you can find it in this box at the end of the train. Another super useful thing to know that's even better when you're having trouble with parrying or dodging is that you can use your beta skills to stun and interrupt unblockable attacks on an enemy or boss. So a tactic that you can use is to save some of your beta energy to then use a skill when you see the enemy doing the yellow circle, which means they're about to do an attack that can only be dodged. When you do this, it will stop the attack animation of the enemy, and even if the move you use doesn't have super armor on it, you won't be knocked back, making this a very useful thing to do if you're in a pinch and you can't dodge that attack. There's actually quite a few skills to unlock and upgrade in Stellar Blade, but for us the most useful ones was the Shield Breaker and Triplet. Shield Breaker is great, as you will often need to strip enemies of their shield to actually do damage to them in Stellar Blade. Just like the name Shield Breaker, this thing will break shields very effectively, and you can actually charge it up or just quickly spam it to rip through those shields. However, after you get the upgraded version of this lets you charge it way quicker and perform a second stage attack as part of the skill, meaning you will knock the enemy down, giving you even more room in the fight. Triplet, on the other hand, is not only amazing for dealing damage, but the upgraded version of it will allow you to do a secondary input to do a follow-up attack that will reduce the enemy's balance, allowing you to perform the retribution execution more commonly than you would normally get it. Bear in mind, the balance of an enemy is normally only reduced by getting a perfect parry, so this is actually a nice way to also chip that down. This is also one of the better skills to use when interrupting unblockable attacks, as it has a very quick startup time. Next up, we have a more general tip for you, and it's something to bear in mind when you are upgrading and spending your skill points in the skill tree. We recommend focusing on one skill rather than spreading your points out, as the game follows a pattern of usually adding a second attack onto the skills that costs even more SP as you start going through the skill tree, so it's often better to fully upgrade a single skill that you use a lot, rather than spreading all of your skill points thin and not actually juicing up a single skill that you use a lot. As mentioned in the pre-release trailers and the walkthroughs by Shift Up, you will get access to a second batch of skills later in the game called burst skills. Here's some tips that will make you much better in combat with these skills. Tempest is one of our favorites, and you will know why if you've ever played a Devil May Cry game, as it kind of looks like it was lifted from Virgil's moveset, but one of the really cool things about it, other than the fact that it looks really good, is that while you're charging this skill, you are actually invulnerable to damage, meaning you can tank the damage of an incoming hit, including massive boss attacks, and after this attack finishes, it will leave them downed, so you can kind of use this as a panic button. Overdrive is another burst skill that we wanted to highlight, as this is essentially a self buff that you can use, which has a very quick cast time that will also hit and interrupt an enemy if you do it right next to them, and it will then give you a massive buff increasing your attack power and attack speed, allowing you to quickly rack up a ton of damage when you have the opportunity to just constantly hit the boss. But if you're looking for more SP gold and other cool outfits for Eve, well, you should know that Stellar Blade has an affinity system for the vendors, whereby the more money you spend on their stuff, the better your relationship gets with them, allowing you access to new missions and additional items to buy from those vendors. Getting more XP and gold will make you more powerful, as you'll be able to unlock new skills earlier and buy as many items as you like. Luckily in Stellar Blade, there are gear pieces that allow you to increase your SP XP gain and gold gain. The easiest way to do this is with SP and gold gear modules. You can get these from the Sisters Junk vendor, and they seem to become available around midway through the game. We aren't sure if it is required to increase your reputation to level 2 for these to appear, but for us we did have level 2 when they became available, and it also unlocks some cool earrings for Eve anyway. But the actual gear sockets became available at this vendor for us after doing the main quest following the Barren Wastelands area. If, however, you don't want to spend the gold but still want to get those juicy XP gains and even earlier, you can instead get the maximum benefit by heading to this location here, which is in the Wastelands near the Solar Tower. If you then open this chest, you will get this gear module for free. But this isn't the only vendor you should also level up and buy from. If you head over to the information broker that's near the bulletin board, you'll be able to get some of the best looking outfits in the game, and it's actually super early that you can do this. The amazing thing is that it doesn't even cost a lot to rank up this vendor, making it super easy to do. You will, however, need some Vitcoins to purchase the outfits, but they are definitely worth it, and these are some of the better looking ones. And there's another thing that you can do to increase your customization options, and that is to unlock a shop that allows you to change your hairstyle and hair color. To do this, you will need to complete a quest, and we aren't 100% able to verify exactly when this quest becomes available, but for us it was around 4 to 6 hours in the game. You will need to visit the shop with the big glowing red sign on the outside, and this is Gwen's hair salon. After talking with the owner, you then need to head out into the wasteland and collect various items such as a blow dryer, scissors, and so on from a dump site. This is actually a super easy location in general, and the items are literally marked on the map for you, and the game has a really nice quality of life feature whereby after picking up all of the quest items, it allows you to quickly fast travel directly back to the quest handler. So once you've picked these things up, you can instantly teleport back and then complete the quest, which gives you access to a bunch of different hairstyles and even dyeing the color of your hair. Another awesome tip involving Eve's hair is that you can actually reduce the length of Eve's ponytail in the options menu, and you may want to do this to reduce some of that visual clutter on the screen, or to just make it fit in with the style that you're going for Eve. One of the bigger mistakes we made early on was not upgrading the hacking tool for the drone, as certain chests out in the world with some juicy loot in them will only be available to you if you unlock this skill in the skill tree for the drone, which then allows it to actually hack and open these boxes. So we do recommend unlocking this pretty early if you don't want to miss out on some extra loot. In Stellar Blade, spamming attacks can sometimes work for you, but it's much better to try and play and focus on what you're doing in combat rather than spamming buttons. This is because some of the combo enders have a very large amount of end lag on them, where you will not be able to cancel out of into a dodge or parry. So if you want to get really good at the game, we recommend taking your time as you pace your attacks and inputs so you can see when an inbound attack is coming your way, allowing you to then dodge or parry instead of just spamming and getting locked into combos. Next is some very useful advice when you're dealing with an incoming attack that requires you to repulse or blink through, as if the enemy is doing one of these attacks, it is straight up easier to just wait for the second part of the attack to trigger and then dodge, rather than trying to min-max the damage in between. So when you see a repulse or blink coming up, just wait and focus on dodging. And next, when it comes to gearing up your Eve, you only have a limited number of Exospine slots. To start with, you just have a single slot, and then later in the game you get a second slot. This makes choosing what type of Exospine you want to use very important, as they all offer a completely different range of buffs from offensive to defensive and even some utility. The beta Trance type Exospine is one that we found to not only be extremely helpful, but it's also one that is directly impactful to your gameplay, especially in boss fights. This Exospine at its first star gives you a 12% increase to your beta recharge speed, which is really nice. At 2 stars, it buffs your beta attack damage by 12%, again juicing those beta skills even further. But once you max it out, you get the really good effect. This gives you a chance to go into a trance when you use a beta skill. This is somewhat rare, but when it does proc, it's so good. It gives you unlimited beta energy for a short period of time, effectively allowing you to spam your skills back to back for free as long as you are in the trance. So if you do get this one, make sure to max it out and juice up your beta skills, and then pay attention to when the trance is activated by the little bar that appears at the bottom middle of the screen. When this is active, it's time to wreck and stunlock even the strongest bosses by spamming your beta skills. You can get this one when you're in the sewers in the main story and you find a hideout that's abandoned, and Eve says she feels some warmth coming from here. You need to open this gate and continue down the path and destroy the wooden barricades to reveal this hidden room with some Natiba inside. Defeat them and then grab the box at the back of the room to get this Exospine for yourself. And next up is a super simple tip, but it will save you a bunch of time. When you're buying things from the shops in-game, if you want to buy the maximum amount of an item, rather than having to press the button multiple times, you can just tab to the left instead of the right. This makes it super easy to buy a whole stack of an item instead of having to spam that button one at a time. This is of course extra useful for things like ammo, where you just want to max out the amount that you can carry, and to be honest, the shotgun ammo type or the explosive ammo type destroy things super easily, so you probably want to keep stocked up on these at all times. Lastly, it's important to note that you actually have an active skill that allows you to quickly gap close and warp to an enemy when you hold down the triangle button. You want to pay attention to the charge of it, which is this little circle on the side of your screen, and this is the cooldown for this gap closing skill. Every time this is up, you can just hold triangle to instantly teleport to an enemy, which is very useful, especially in those boss fights where the enemy just keeps jumping back. If you have any extra tips, make sure to share them down below so we can all learn together as a community. And if we helped you out, hit that like and subscribe for more daily gaming videos, news and guides.